Talk Shoe. Recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 712. My name is Eric Nilsson. With me today, I have my regular co-host, Bob Plankers. Today is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. We're back on schedule. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's pretty chilly here in the Bay Area. You know, winter has arrived. It's been like 28 degrees in the morning.
You can keep it, it's almost 50 degrees here. So, woo, balmy.
Yeah, there are times when the Midwest is warmer than California, believe it or not. I see it every winter. We get some cold snaps here. We're actually pretty, latitude-wise, we're pretty high up if you really look at where we sit. But the Pacific Ocean normally keeps us pretty mild, so we're pretty happy about that. The color of the bay is, definitely a dark green. It's cold. It's wintertime here. On the show today, we're going to be talking about the top supermetrics use cases with Aria Operations Advanced Metrics Package. We have Varghese Philipose here. He's going to be talking to us. He's principal VCF TAM, works at VMware by Broadcom. So we're excited about that. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the news and do a drive-by with Corey Romero, see how he's doing. In the news today, the VMUG Connect conference that's going to be happening in St. Louis, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th. They announced their agenda, so I think they're going to have Frank Denneman keynote. So that'll be very, very fun. Great, going to be a community conference. They're thinking about doing an unconference event on that Wednesday. If you know what an unconference is, you can Google that if you don't, where people get to set the agenda for the topics. They're going to choose 4 topics on Wednesday. Then we had keynote by Frank Denneman, and then they have a paid influencer come in to also keynote. So it should be a lot of fun. So go check out vmug.com and look at the agenda that's happening. I know that Hawk Tan's going to be there on the Friday to close things out, as well as some other big VCF guys. So should be a fun event. And there's going to be new versions of VCF come out, and I'm sure they're going to talk a little bit about that. I can't talk much about what's going to be said or not said there, but I am looking forward to a late April event. VMware used to do big announcements in February, March, if you remember the history of that. And so I feel like this is kind of a fun event in the Q1, Q2 timeframe, prepping up for, obviously Explore in Vegas that's coming. So excited about that. Let's do a drive-by to Corey. Corey, any kind of news that you want to talk about here?
Yeah, vExpert 2025. So vExpert voting for the 2025 program, the awards is 2/3 complete. Once finished, we'll process all the data through Broadcom compliance, and that will take us to about possibly late February for a program award announcement. And just after that, we will kick off something new that we're going to do in 2025. And we've got quite a few things, but this is just the first one. We're going to kick off several vExpert learning sessions from seasoned vExperts and teaching and having the newer vExperts learn best practices in the program. And so I'm excited about that, and a lot more new coming for 2025, which I will announce in a blog post once we kick off and announce the 2025 awards. So I'm looking forward to that. Getting excited.
Yeah, that is interesting in that Broadcom now, as we're owned, has a different compliance model. And the compliance is a little more rigorous as they're a chip company and they get a lot of governance throughout the globe. And so they take governance much more serious than what VMware used to do, right? I think it's something to do with hardware. And we talked last week about security and how the Broadcom also has a much higher threshold for security related things that they do. And I would say the compliance is that way. But what I've learned and talked to people about is that if you follow the process, it works. They do it. They come out. It takes usually a couple extra weeks, to go through compliance, but they're very good at it. And if you are a government employee and you are a vExpert and we are giving you a free Advantage membership that's worth $200, then they will ask you to either forego that or they will charge you. You can pay for the $200, right? So they're actually fair. They're really good about it. So Corey, thanks for doing that work. I know it's an extra step to everybody through. When you're talking several thousand people going through compliance, it's a work, but they have a process. They do it, and then we get through it, and away we go. So that's exciting. I'm also excited to get everybody their free Advantage memberships for the year, which then allows them to get a discount on the VCP-VCF training, and they will have a certification lab going on at Connect, VMUG Connect, in St. Louis. So lots of excitement there. And I know that we have been working with the code program. They've spec'd out a full NUC that will run VCF and future versions of VCF for under $900. I think there is a price point there that you can get a 24 core X amount of memory and X amount of terabytes required to run tiered memory, as we've talked about. But you will be able to get a home lab for under $900 in NUC environment that will handle it. Right. And so a lot of fun and excitement there. We're going to have William do some labs at Connect and deep dive on that. I'm sure we'll talk about that, and we will publish the machine. The machine is going through QA testing right now. We've ordered some. So excited about that. And then on the code side, Frankie, who runs the program, Frankie Berrigan, has announced the code coaches, the 2025 code coaches. So we're spinning that back up. And they've also announced a schedule of Power Talks. So they do Power Talks. We used to do Power Talks back in 23, 22, 21. Then the acquisition happened and everything was up in the air, trying to figure out what programs survived and what tools we use. But he's back in business. The code coaches are back in business. And the home lab environments, with VCF, it's back in business. And we're excited about all that. So cool stuff.
Absolutely.
We're really excited about the code power sessions that are announcing and the experts and engaging them back again at the peak level. So a lot of momentum happening in the community and all the programs. So excited about that.
Yeah, and we will have an email going out to the experts on where to get that home lab for under $900 and how to set it up and the whole deal. So we'll share all those details.
And unlike the NUCs in the past where you always had to buy extra stuff, this one is spec'd out like full. You'll be able to. It'll have a terabyte of storage. It's going to have memory. It's $900 for the whole thing.
The whole deal.
Awesome. Yep. It's just wild how much stuff you can get into a package that's that big nowadays. So.
Yeah, if you really look at it, we talked about core license counts for how many ESX servers you need and how many licenses you need to run that, how many cores you need. And this guy has 24 CPUs with 4 threads per 24 cores, 4 threads per core, which means you get 96 CPU instances, really, right? Which then, if you count how many ESX servers you need to run, you need minimum 3 for your compute environment. If you're doing striped for storage, you need a minimum 5 or 4, right? Depending on how you for stripe 4, RAID 4, RAID 5, and high availability around that. So that counts another 4 ESX servers. And then you need for networking, you need a minimum 3 ESX servers. And then what's the core count for each ESX server these days? Well, minimum 16. So that means 16 times what I say, 3 plus 4 plus 3, 6 plus 4 is 10 times 16. Yeah, you do the math, and you need I think we managed to get it running in 96 cores, and that's what we're doing the final testing on to make sure that is the case. And then we also have to project forward. I'm not allowed to say what version of. I think we've told us 9.
We've announced 9. Yeah,
we've announced 9. So then we also have to make sure that 9 is going to behave properly, and we think it does. So we're doing some final testing on that. So that you should be good for a few years on that $900 guy, and it won't heat your house though. That's the drawback, Bob. In the old days, we'd put these servers in the basement and run fans through them to heat our house in the wintertime, right? So yeah, fun times, right? All right, well, that's enough of that. Let's get to our guest who's been patiently waiting there. Bob, I'll let you do the intro, and then we'll get going.
Oh, well, actually, I'd let him do his own intro. The Aria Operations, and we talk about vSphere a lot. vSphere has been the thing for a long time, and then came along vRealize, the vRealize operations, and that got renamed to Aria Operations, and really, just running stuff, running workloads, all that stuff is not just. It's fine to do, but you want more. Somebody will walk up to you. Hey, my application is slow. Okay, like just lots of questions and things, and so we've got all these suites of tools that help with this sort of stuff. And so, why didn't you tell us about you wanted to talk about super metrics, right?
Correct.
Before we get into that, though, I'm going to back up a little bit and go,
okay.
Hey, Varghese, tell us first who you are, how long you've been at VMware, give us the 2-3 minute elevator pitch of who you are and how you got here. Then, Bob, you can go into Aria Operations.
Yeah, I'm getting way ahead of myself. The technology is super exciting. Yeah.
Okay.
This people stuff. Please introduce
Community
yourself.
Podcast. Community podcast.
Why are you here with us? Why? Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for this invitation. This is my second time here. So I did almost 3 years back. I did the podcast 552 for on vRealize updates itself, update of vRealize operations. So live coming here, I'm very excited to be back here again. So to introduce myself, my name is Varghese Philipose. I'm currently working as Principal VCF TAM or Technical Adoption Manager, as it said, based out of VMware offices in Dubai. So for those who don't know what TAMs are those services engaged by the customers to help them use the full capabilities and features of the VMware solution they buy. So thus basically helping them to maximize the ROI investment done on VMware and helping them to achieve the business goals. So that's the current role. To little about my career. So I have about 27 years of experience in IT, almost all these years tied to virtualization. When I started my career with thin clients with VXL Instruments, and then Wise, which was Dell Wise, which was in Mumbai and Bengaluru in India. And then I moved 21 years back into Dubai, where I was working with the Citrix customers on pre-sales as well as designing and deploying Citrix solutions. Then I moved to a couple of years at Trend Micro as a TAM. And then in 2012, I joined VMware as a TAM. And since then, I've been here doing this role. And I'm also, thanks to Corey, I'm vExpert since 2019, 6 years continuous running vExpert Pro, and as well as vExpert Cloud Management as well. And this program actually gave me the opportunity to talk in multiple communities, especially during the pandemic. I was excited to talk in VMware Singapore and many places in VMware US as well. And then also the community events in the Explore VMworld and all. So my first speaking session at VMworld was 2018. Last year, I completed a personal milestone of 25 speaking sessions at Explore VMworld. And most of these sessions were related to Aria Ops, VROps or Aria Ops, Supermetrics. And last 2-3 years, I had been doing a lot on sustainability with Aria Ops. So that's a quick overview on what I do and why I'm here, right?
Nice. All right, now we can get into what is Aria Operations and metrics, and then once you do that, then we can drill down. So do a little high level of that first. So give us a little bit of Aria Operations and metrics. Then Bob, you can take it away and go crazy.
Oh, I'm going to let him do it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just as Bob mentioned, right, the Aria Ops is that management suite which gives you the capability of keeping that management level on capacity, troubleshooting, compliance, all of those pillars, right? And then we have a lot of custom content, out of the box content, which cater to all the type of customers, most of the customers. But then still, the power of Aria Ops lies in building the custom use cases or expanding the use cases for each of those customers. This is because every customer is different, every industry is different. So, and every customer's business goals are different. So that makes it if you can customize the content, which is basically dashboards, reports, views, and all of those things, it becomes very easy and it becomes very acceptable to the customers. Now, when it comes into Supermetric, I can give you a very quick example. For example, I'm a admin. I am an IT admin, and I'm managing about 1,000 plus VMs. And then so my manager comes in and says that, hey, I want to see the find the total number of vCPUs assigned to the VMs given to the marketing team. So now the problem here is marketing team has about 100 plus VMs, and these are distributed in different clusters, different environments. So it's not in one single page where I can go in and see the total vCPUs of the VM. The first step I can do is I can bring that into the custom group, dynamic custom group, bring that into as a container, custom group saying marketing team. So I get that all of those VMs in there. But then when I go in and see the custom group and see the metric, I don't see vCPU metrics there. There are no VM metrics related to that because it's a completely different object. It's a container, right? But then I have VMs underneath that. How do you add up that, right? So that's where the magic happens, magic of supermetric. So I can create something, a mathematical expression saying that go and sum up all the vCPU metrics of the VMs underneath and then give it as an output on the custom group, which is basically marketing team custom group. So there I can create a name total vCPUs, and then it goes in and add up those and then brings up with that. So that's basically supermetric. So once that is created, it remains there, it persists there, and then you can use it within any of the content like dashboards, views, reports, or anywhere, and then you can keep it there. So now these supermetrics, as I've mentioned, like I gave the example of some, but then these are created with a list of operators and functions. There are a lot of functions like average, sum, minimum, maximum, then the mathematical operators, logical operators, and these are further then again combined and operated using several conditional expressions such as where, if else, all of those things. So it really opens up the opportunities of basically creating and custom contents.
Well, I think that's pretty interesting. So what you're talking about, when you say it's a container, you're aggregating stats from that are collected at the VM level, at the application level, the other objects. You can add those objects to the container, right?
Correct.
And then decide how you're presenting that. So your example of marketing, basically saying that, if marketing wants to know web server stuff or whatever, you can aggregate that as a statistic for them as part of the supermetric stuff. Do I have that correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So it's just not about counting the vCPU. The other any metric from VMs within that, you can say cost of the whole VMs. Cost. What is the cost for the whole marketing team? We have the metric for individual metric for every VM for the cost. We can aggregate that, sum it up. What is the maximum CPU usage within this container of all the VM? We can use that. What is the minimum? What is the average of CPU usage? So you can use everything within that container and then create that. This is just an example, right? This is just an example where you can expand it to other cases as well.
I like it because it's workload centric, and that's something that we often forget about as technologists. Some of us build infrastructure just to build infrastructure. Turns out most of our customers actually want to run workloads on them. Infrastructure is neat, but it's really about the workloads. It's about the applications and stuff. And so this is taking a more workload centric view, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, we've been doing chargeback for a lot of years, right? It's always been there. So we've known about it. I have one question. When we're deploying Aria operations, right, do I have to put that on an ESXi server as well, or can I just run that workload in a VM? Right. Just having gone through all of the training for vSphere, NSX, and now vSAN, right? Like everything sits on hypervisors, but I assume that Aria operations is more at a VM perspective where I load that into vCenter. How do I actually deploy Aria operations to be able to then run these metrics packages?
See, virtual Aria Ops is a virtual appliance. It's an OVA file which you deploy from vCenter. It's just like it's just like a VM running on the ESXi host.
Right, because we've done studies, and I always bring this back to reality. Like we do studies of what percentage of customers are now adopting the stack up, and it's like 20% have now the full stack and are using things. So I always want to people that are listening to this and haven't done this yet. It's really just a VM. I don't have to deploy some more ESX servers and do that. I just get an OVF and deploy it in my current environment, and then I'll be able to set this up and run it. Because a lot of people are actually getting that. And if you look at VVF, our products VVF and VCF. Aria Operations comes with, I think, one or both. I'm not sure which one.
Oh, both of the foundations, yeah.
Right. So this is, if you've gotten VVF or VCF, you already have the stuff, and you just need to learn how to go set it up and use it. Right. So cool. Good to know. Good to know.
It's a really powerful product, like the supermetrics are interesting. What other stats does it collect? Because operations does a whole lot of stuff. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the metrics are like, it could be anything from performance, capacity, or compliance, or sustainability. Sustainability is the latest thing what we have. The power metrics, we can convert that into carbon footprint, carbon emissions, all of those things, right? And that's where it becomes very, very interesting, right? So, and you can take each of these metrics and then take it up, or I would say manipulate it to as per our need, right? So that's what Supermetric does. Now, same thing can be done even for now. You have the management pack builder now. Now we can connect, if we want to collect some metrics from an external device, for example, the storage array, if they have the REST API connectivity, right? So you can use the management pack builder and build those metrics. Again, that metrics also can be used to create or connect with other metrics within the Aria Ops, and then use the supermetrics to build on around that. So it's a huge vast thing, right?
Yeah, that's actually really cool. The idea. So I'm not as up to date on my Aria operations and as I probably should be. So I was going to ask about being able to collect statistics and data from other sources. So anything with a REST API is basically fair game for harvesting data out of it on a regular basis. That's pretty cool. Is there still the agent that you can install on guest operating systems to collect data as well?
Yeah, the telegraph agents, this is the old telegraph agent that's still there, which need a cloud proxy, and it can go in and collect the operating system metrics and has some application metrics as well.
Very cool.
What's the user interface like? If I have an OVF and I'm running an appliance, are the GUIs in its own pane of glass, or do you do an integration into vCenter for that?
Both ways are possible. There is a plugin available within the vCenter, but then you have the separate UI. That's the common use case. You fire up the appliance, and then you connect to the VR Ops or Aria Ops UI, and then it's pretty user friendly now. It's all the configuration, all the settings are based on the use case based now. Observability, troubleshooting, sustainability, compliance. So those who go in there, they can, you just need to know what do you really want to do, right? What do you want? You cannot just go there and then go and figure out that will turn out to, because it's a massive product, right? It's a massive product. So you need to know what you are going to need and then go in, and it will be easy for you.
Organizations figuring out what they want to do is a whole other, we could talk for an hour on that alone. But I've always found just getting it installed, getting it hooked up to your environment, and just starting to collect performance data, the right sizing data, the stuff that you can use for that, letting it collect data for a while is a great start to that, and then kind of, do you agree? How would you get moving if you were new to this sort of thing?
So for a new customer who starts using this, right? So he just need to connect it to the vCenter adapters, vCenters. That is the first step to do, right? vCenter is the first source of truth for collecting the metrics from the environment. So you just connect the adapter. Again, there is a walkthrough configuration while you deploy, and you start with that now. So create the adapters connection to the vCenter, leave it for 10 minutes. You will start getting the metrics collected, 10 minutes. But then, yeah, you need to wait for a few hours or few days to get the actual capacity calculations, right? Because capacity calculations are not done just for the 5 minutes data. It is run through like a day or even 15 days or 30 days to get the overall capacity modeling. But then still you will start seeing all those metrics, and then you'll start working on with that in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's a good point too. The idea that, these tools aren't all knowing and all seeing. They can't see the future. They have to witness the performance. So, like a retail environment or a retailer that goes through Black Friday, various events during the year, sales, pardon me, all that sort of stuff. if you want to see the performance, it's got to be able to witness it. So you might end up waiting a while, but yeah, to collect that data and to be able to make decisions about that data, right sizing and whatnot. So.
Are there ways to tie alarming into then going and grabbing and running one of these reports? So like, I don't want to run these reports every week, but then we just had a blog outage, right, where someone disconnected storage, right? Some of the services went to, and I got a call, at I think it was when the NFL playoffs were happening Sunday evening, of course, right in the middle of the playoff, my phone goes off, and the next thing you know, we're all on a call trying to debug what's going on, right? And so that's where it's kind of like, yeah, you kind of want to get an alarm going off, right? Then you want to go get the data so that I can go to a panel and say, what's actually happening, right? Because at first, none of us know what's actually happening, and you need to track down, what apps are failing and what's the commonality between those app failures and the metrics behind those. So I'm just wondering, do you guys get into some of that, right?
Yeah, we have live monitoring dashboards now, which looks at basically the key performance metrics, right? Key performance metrics of the usage, the core stop, CPU ready, memory ballooning, all of those things, right? So those are out of the box, but still, I can give an example of one of my customer who utilized Supermetrics to handle this more proactively, right? So he had a critical list of VMs, a group of VMs, whereas those are very mission critical. You can say P0 or T0 or whatever thing, right? You cannot expect that to go down on performance as well. So what we did is we created a supermetric with the operator maximum value of the CPU ready within that environment, within that critical VMs, goes beyond a threshold, it will trigger an alert. So it was pretty easy to configure. So we had two supermetrics. One was looking for the CPU ready, going beyond a particular number, and then memory ballooning. If it starts getting again, it looks at that. Now you have these two metrics. It gives the value, and then we create an alert, symptom definition and alert, looking at this supermetric, saying that if it goes beyond this, I am get notified, right? So and then I know even before it gets to the actual issue. Mostly the performance issue starts with CPU ready and memory ballooning when it starts. That's the most common thing, right? And then you know what needs to be done. You come in and then you start looking at even before the issue has hit, right? So that's one of the big use cases of Supermetrics which we have seen in performance monitoring as well, proactive monitoring, in fact.
Yeah, that's great. It reminds me of a side story here, which was I was having coffee, and there is this tech vendor who's trying to get into Tesla, and they write software. They're funded. They got a couple $1 million, and what they do is they look at your battery tech, right? And they can predict battery tech 2 months in advance. So they're trying to sell their library to Tesla to have it run constantly on the Cybertrucks and their whole fleet. And what it is you just run that. It gives you visualization of your battery stats. And their big claim to fame is they can predict failure 2 months in advance, right? So lithium batteries, I guess, when they're 7 or 8 years old, will just fall off a cliff and then die. And it'll leave you on the highway, right? And you just don't want that. You want to give some couple month advance of what's actually happening. When are you bumping against? And when you start talking, they're kind of in that same boat of advanced metrics of, failure points in the battery packs, right? Same kind of thing where I really want to look at this, get a couple months notice of when I'm going to start seeing failure, right? Whether drives are starting to error out or, where you get X amount of read errors on a SSD or whatever it is, right? And then give me visibility so I'm not caught watching the NFL,
Yeah, you can fix it on your own time,
right.
plan for it rather than getting caught, after hours and stuff.
After hours, right? And that's what it comes down to, especially when you're talking several thousand machines running, right? There's always something that's on the threshold, right? I call it the leaky cruise liner. There's always water. That's why we have pumps, right? To pump the water out, and you don't really have to worry about the little leaks. You just got to worry about, when you're going to have one of those little ones turn into a big one, so that it'll overwhelm the pumps, and we got issues, right? So yeah, that's cool. Like that.
Tell us a little bit more. You mentioned memory ballooning and CPU ready. Tell us a little bit more about those two stats. I think, especially for people that are newer in these environments, those two stats might be something that they're not familiar with. Can you go into them a little bit?
Yeah, so CPU ready and memory ballooning, why it is important is because usually people look at, if you are measuring the performance, they look at the CPU usage. But then CPU usage can go even up to 90%. It doesn't matter. We take care of that, right? ESXi take care of that. Memory also takes, even if it reaches 90, it doesn't matter. We take care of that in the ESXi layer. But then there could be other issues. For example, we are having in a ESXi host, you are having, for example, it has total 24 cores, physical cores in there in the whole ESXi. I'm just giving an example. And then on top of that, you have multiple VMs, right? So VMs could be 8 CPU, 16 CPU, whatever thing. So that's always more than 24 CPU, right? So whenever this 16 CPU VM want to execute a CPU process, it needs to take that 16 CPU always at a go, even if whatever be the process is. So that takes it, and then when the other VM, 8 CPU VM wants to do something, it will look for 8 CPU. If it doesn't get that, it will wait for that. It has to wait, right? So this is what is called queuing up, right? And if it goes beyond a particular level, that's where the CPU ready time increases, and this results in performance impacts. And that will not, so if people don't understand that it is related to the CPU ready, they will keep adding CPU to improve the performance. That
Yeah, and it goes the opposite direction. Sometimes
Yes.
the fix is actually to reduce the number of CPUs. Yeah, that's a great point. It's counterintuitive. So
yeah, so that's where this metric is very, very important, and that's where we look that as the steps where the performance starts degrading. The easiest solution would be probably move that 16 CPU VM into another host, right? That will free up the host here, and then ready is gone on the ESXi side as well, right? So that's same thing with memory ballooning as well. So it gives more usage and it starts ballooning, and that's where this metric as well increases. So similar thing. So that's where these two things are the most important thing when you are looking at performance metrics or measuring performance for all the VMs.
yeah, that's really important. The hidden gotchas of a virtualization environment. Yeah, and so yeah, memory ballooning. Yeah, the host trying desperately to have active memory to execute things. Yeah, you want to know about that too. But this plays in all of these stats. vRealize, I'm old school. vRealize operations, Aria operations. All these names are going to bleed together in my mind.
VCF
the operations tools. Can also do right sizing. Can you talk a little bit about that, using all these stats to figure out what the right size of things should be?
So out of the box, AriaOps does the perfect right sizing, right? It gives you the recommendation for right sizing. It doesn't do the right sizing by itself, but then gives you the recommendation. So it looks at basically looks at your VM running over a period of time, and then says that, for example, it has 16 CPU, 16 vCPU allocated, and it sees that it is using only like two CPU. Okay, this is a regular thing, right?
Oh,
It
yeah,
will
for
give
sure.
you a recommendation not to remove the whole 14 CPU, but then goes in and remove maximum 50%, maximum 50%, right? So it gives you the recommendation of removing 8 CPU. So you remove that, and then you keep running again. Still, if it is using only 2 CPU, then after the next cycle, it gives you recommendation to do the remove the half, which is 4 CPU. So that's how they write it. So customers say like, okay, I get the recommendation, but I'm not that aggressive. I don't want to take that recommendation. I will take even half of that. But then what I keep saying is, this is not aggressive. We have taken that 50% max only, right, to remove. So you can really go with that, and that gives you the best results. And now, once you have that report, either you can export it and then go and work with that, or you can even right size directly from the AriaOps itself. You have the actions which goes in and connect to the vCenter, and then run the actions to right size that accordingly.
All right. I have a question when you're ready, but only Bob when you're done with your thread. I got a good one. So
no, I'm good. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
All right, so I want to up level a little bit, right? Have a little fun here as a community podcast, right? We could do a whole show on the amazing Aria operations and advanced metrics, but I'm because I again went back and now I get how you're running NSX on the and you got hypervisors, right? And you've got I look at operations like, can you also monitor the plumbing, right? Which is, I got virtual switches using NSX, right? And it is my virtual switch fabric, right? And there are metrics that I want to know with regard to how my network is doing, right? Same with my storage and RAID 5 and RAID 6. Like, can I use operations to look at the hypervisors themselves and how they're performing, and the network, fabric and how it's performing? I'm just curious on that level. When you're talking the pure plumbing of my storage and network capability, can I also manage that as well?
So NSX, vSAN, everything comes. These are built-in metrics. It comes in, and then Aria Ops sees that. We get to see that end to end. So when we are talking about the external metrics, external devices, that's where we need to have management pack. We used to have management packs earlier for several vendors, but now we are asking to do the build your own management pack. It's easy, right? Management pack builder, and these devices definitely will have a REST API calls, right? REST API calls, and you can connect to that and then get in whatever metrics you want, and it becomes native metric, like something like native metrics in Aria Ops. So you can get all of those things into one single Aria Ops, and then create a custom dashboard to bring in all of those things into one single pane of glass.
Yeah, I guess from NSX and virtual switches, that's all in the hypervisor, right? And it's all virtual networking. So that's easier to do because you don't really have devices. I'm not talking about the core physical network switches, just the network fabric itself and what each hypervisor is delivering from a network fabric. So that one probably less custom, agents need to be built. For storage, I get that. Eventually you have physical storage devices that you're laying down bits, and so you would need custom monitoring capability for whatever storage, whether you're doing network appliance devices, right, that are giving you that storage, or whether you're using the disks or attached to the hypervisors, right, themselves. So that's interesting. But from a network perspective, it's all just all the network traffic is going in the virtual environment across the hypervisors, and so you should be able to run that against that, what you're saying. And I think that's all built in, right? So
yep.
All right.
Yeah, it's all the idea is visibility there, and you'll be able to see whatever the hypervisor sees too. So even if you haven't instrumented your storage array, if you've got an external storage array, vSAN is already covered visibility wise. But if you've got an external storage array, even if you're not monitoring it directly, you're still going to see what the hypervisor's reading and writing across either the SAN connection or a network connection there too. So you're still going to get those stats.
Right. And I would think that, transaction per second, how much volume, I'm going across my storage network, all that is good visibility, which would be also, because when I had my failure, that was what the problem was, right? It was all storage related, and I would need to be monitoring that and seeing when I was starting to see problems with that, right? So yeah, all right, not just applications, right? So, and I think as people go from vSphere to the full VCF fabric, right, and they're implementing that, then having an understanding and maybe even training on what I would need to do to monitor my whole infrastructure now running VCF, which is NSX, vSAN, and vSphere, versus all the guys that are 80% of our customers just using vSphere, right? And then they have their own, HP management framework that they're using to monitor the typical storage gear or whatever. So yeah, all right.
Yeah, but centralizing it, especially when you can. A former coworker of mine always called the single pane of glass a single glass of pain, and so I always think about that when I'm thinking about this stuff. But being able to aggregate that in a way that doesn't add friction. Single panes of glass, I have to now think about how to say it. Single panes of glass end up causing friction because you've got a lot of stuff tied together, and now you have to worry about it all as one thing. Right. I've always liked the Aria tools because it collects the stuff, but it's more of a laid back approach too, and gaining visibility to things. The people that are just using vSphere and not really monitoring, the performance is fine, whatever, that sort of thing. But you start looking at stuff, you add a tool like this and you start looking at stuff and you really gain insights into what's going on. Hey, I've got a SAN switch that's overloaded. Hey, I've got, all these other questions, so I don't know.
Right.
gaining visibility is a good step forward.
And so I guess, Varghese, one of the questions to you is, this is, we're just chatting, right? As VCF is becoming more popular now, clearly we're talking VCF. Are you seeing more people coming to you going, okay, I'm starting to implement VCF across, I'm gonna do networking storage. I have to worry about how I'm gonna monitor this all stuff. And since I'm buying the Kool-Aid, I'm gonna go VCF and I'm gonna put storage and networking all on hypervisors. Are you seeing a trend to people starting to use it this way?
Yes, 100%. See, one of the main things which most of the customers are talking about is like where they have like vSphere, NSX, vSAN, all of those things, they spend like 6 to 7 months a year on upgrading, maintaining the upgrades every year, right? So, and with VCF, we are talking about seamless upgrade, all these within one single window and a single upgrade patch and all of those things, right? So that makes a lot of difference. And then VCF operations, which is going to be the one single pane for everything, right? So that's again, that is basically the Aria Ops in the backend, and then we are getting the VCF Ops. So that is going to be very, very important, a crucial tool for the entire VCF platform.
Natural, a question that comes from that is high availability across Aria. Does Aria have a high availability strategy? Because I know that NSX and vSAN and vSphere now, it's all HA. It's just built in. As you deploy VCF now, you're going to have redundancy across every failure point. And I haven't spent time with Aria, right? I need to go do that training class too, so I get that. It is an OVF, so do they have a high availability strategy for that as well?
There are two ways of doing it. One is the basic HA, Aria Ops HA capabilities there, wherein you will have a master node and then a replica node, wherein these data are replicated. So it will, if master fails, replica will take over, and then you have the data nodes which will all direct. That is one way. Then there is the continuous availability, where if one of the nodes fail, it should work from the other site. So that should have the double the resources. You need to have the same kind of nodes in one site and the other side, but then that works as continuous availability as well. So these are the two things of HA and disaster recovery or whatever things.
That's a good question, Eric, is, who watches the watchers? If you're relying on this to give you alerts when something's wrong and it's down, that's not good.
It's still fresh in my memory from Sunday. I'm just going through what did I have to do on Sunday to go track this stuff down? Yeah. And I'm not even the IT guy. I'm a business owner that gets called, and then I got to get on the call with the IT guys. And it makes you realize that all of this stuff has to be done, right? So that because that's what we want to avoid. And it is very elegant. Everything that they're putting together is very elegant. So it's just and when you talk about operations and metrics and dashboards and that, like my only other question is, do you have dark mode on the GUI? Do we get dark mode too? Because I want to have
yes. 100% yes.
All right. Dark mode. Bob, any other things that you can think of that we should get him while I asked you guys what content is out there, and Julian, you guys have a nice thread and chat here that there is a YouTube video that goes through VCF operations. There's a VCF operations transformation book. There's a YouTube video that goes through how to be a operations hero with vRealize operations. So I don't know if I can't quote these. They're too long URLs, but you can go to YouTube and you can look for that. They have that. There's a blogs on vRealize operations. 2020 was a blog in the management blog, which will probably end up in the VCF blog, because we're doing a blog migration project in the next 4 weeks that will bring all that stuff together into one big VCF blog, and then you'll be able to search on that. So there's a great blog on this, and there is blogs by Brock Peterson. So you can search on Brock Peterson. He's out there. Do you guys work on publishing material around these topics?
So the one which you mentioned initially, right? The one which was published in 2020, my top 15 vRealize Operation Supermetric. That was one of the first blogs which I published, and it was published through the CMBU. At that time, it was CMBU blog post, right? And the interesting thing is that I still get that is referred by so many people, and I still get pinged for questions on that. And that video TAMLab 073, that was also published in 2020. that also gets a lot of viewers. So that is one of the things where people go in and refer the Supermetric. And then my colleagues Thomas Copton and Peter Brock Peterson, we work we talk to each other. We working on these kind of Supermetric, and they have their blog and they have videos as well. So those are really good reference materials for learning or getting to learn the Supermetrics in there, right? And then there is the community. Sorry.
Yeah, and Julia, I know you're watching, and I do not have administration to publish on the live streams. But if you want to publish those links on the external live stream feeds, if you're listening to this or afterwards, you can look at that, and we'll publish those URLs on the live stream. So it'll be out there. So sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but continue.
Now, one important thing, we have a community handbook for VCF operations transformation, right? So there you have all these metrics we talked about. This is all mentioned there, all in detail, and this is run by my mentor and one of the best in the ops field, Ivan Rabu. We call him Ivan, one and only Ivan. So yeah, so this has everything what you need on the metrics on Aria Ops, and there is a separate section on Supermetrics, which I am updating. So we keep this updated. So this is an online book. Anyone can download, and then you can go in and read that. And then we keep updating it every month or every quarter, so that you get all the details updated in there.
That's super cool.
I know that I was actually surprised when we did code sessions where Aria Operations, and in the old days when we were looking at the code theater at Explore, we'd always get Aria and we'd always give them a couple sessions because we're the ones running the code track, and we like, and we get like 5 or 10 people sitting in there. We'd be like, okay, we gotta do some operations, Aria operations. And I think this year when we had Aria operations sessions, they were packed, right? So I made a mental note like, oh, this is getting serious. It's no longer the second cousin in the basement that we got to come up and give them dinner every once in a while, right? Like now this is like something that people actually want to hear about and show up for. So it's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, in fact, my Supermetric session was packed for in the community, and then like great feedback, great questions. So which means it's just not about ops. These are the advanced things, right? So people have started doing that. So which is really good to see.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. The idea that people are moving on just past the infrastructure. It's almost, people are in organizations. IT is evolving. To your point, the people's bosses want to know, about performance. There's business decisions to be made about growth and things, and even talk about migrations and whatnot. Actually having data around this stuff is really powerful.
Yeah, and it really does come back when you bite the bullet and go full VCF. You realize that this is just stuff you're going to need, right? And maybe I don't need to buy HP Insight Manager, whatever the name of all the secondary tools you use to cook.
Yeah, it's just delivered. It's integrated. My comment earlier about a single pane of glass. That's actually one of the nice things about VCF is it's just delivered together and tested together and that. And so all of the stress of that single pane of glass that you might build for yourself, we try to get rid of that by just
and if you really look at the pain points that everybody had with our solution stack before it wasn't integrated. So it was like, well, I'm already going to have to install these different products and have different GUIs and figure out how they work. And it was almost hard to make it all work together, right? We actually had a VCF.
Come a long way in that regard, right. And there's still a lot of interesting stuff going on there too.
Especially when you start looking at 9 and where we're going, right? It's like, okay. Yeah. The thing that I loved about vCenter is that it was just amazing GUI, right? Everything was there. From a purely compute standpoint, it was all integrated. It's just like, wow, this is amazing. We made it easy to work with VMs, right? And I feel like now we're starting to make it easy to work with what I'd call the SDDC now, right? Really, really integrated.
We've got all those. We've got a ton of user experience designers, and this is something we don't talk about very much. But we've got whole groups of design teams. These people that have been trained in how humans interact with these systems, and they're worried deeply about how humans interact with them, and that. And you really see that in our UIs. You really see that in a lot of these tools. And to your point, shifting the focus from just developing the vSphere UI and the vSphere clients and things to these other tools as well. Varghese, you talked about how there's automated workflows for setting this stuff up, and that's make it easy to get it started. That's super cool. So
yeah, and if you ask me whether I'd have Varghese here talking about advanced metrics in Aria, and I'd be excited about it, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like,
it's amazing what excites me nowadays. Yes.
Right. Now I'm like, okay, this is how you run things now, right? And it will actually get there. And I think a lot of people are starting to understand that a little bit more now, which is why when you have a session, people show up, right? Because like, oh, I'm actually going to use this these days, right? Yeah.
True. Yeah, you can show your boss.
So, we're at the 50-minute mark, and it's been great. So, Varghese, we always ask, what gets you excited for the future? Where are opportunities that you think are going to come in the next year as we look through the rest of 2025? Anything that you kind of get excited about that you're like, oh, I can't wait till this comes? Or
that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, no, we don't have to talk about, like, there's a lot of technology that nobody's adopted yet, right? That's in there that you start to see adoption. So it doesn't have to be things that are not released yet. But what areas get you excited? And you're not allowed to say AI, right? That's cheap. Like, yeah. But what things in 2025 that you think are going to be interesting, or anything you're working on? Yeah.
No, see, for me, what is exciting, which is coming up, is VCF operations. To be honest, like a lot of things, because we are going to see a lot of customers going to use this stuff, and then getting them adopt. That is our role as a TAM. That is my job as well, right? So helping them to adopt that, and this will open up a lot of opportunities like sustainability, compliance. These are the use cases which has never been explored within the Aria operations. Like, these are the things which will definitely become very valid and very important for them. So I'm really looking forward to that, what is coming next, like VCF 9 and ahead for the next year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just faster CPUs that make all of this less than an overhead, right? Because that's the other thing that happens is, as the CPU's gotten faster and faster, having this stuff available as just single pane of glass or whatever. Well, I always worried about it because I'm like, look, I just barely have enough CPU to run vSphere, right? And then I got WordPress and all my apps layered into it, and I'm always looking for, like, how do I trim things away to be able to run right fast. But I think now, the CPU doubling every couple of years, you're getting to a point where this kind of stuff is white noise in the overhead, right? And so I don't really have to worry about it anymore, and that's exciting for me because CPUs are fast enough now that it doesn't matter, right? Yeah, you can have all this stuff.
But again, that comes with a lot of power consumption as well. That's another side for that, right? So even now, it is not.
You can monitor for that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can monitor, but then faster GPUs. It's going to consume a lot of power. So that's something which we need to look forward to, like more energy efficient GPUs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of a firm believer Back to the Future, where I got Mr. Fusion on the back of my car, and I open up and put my banana peel in, and doesn't it just make gigawatts? Like, how many gigawatts was it? I forget what the quote was from Back to the Future. 5.6 gigawatts, Marty. That's impossible. Anyway, it's the end of the podcast. It's good times here. All right, well, that's exciting. That's what you're looking forward to, right? And that I would say that your field is growing and booming, right? And even if you don't adopt NSX and vSAN, there's still a lot of reasons to have it just for your CPU monitoring, right? And what you're actually doing in compute, right? So,
yes,
right. All right. Near the end of the show here, we always also ask, where do people follow you? How do they follow you? Where do they find the information that you're publishing? And then, we'll get into where you're at and what kind of barbecue you'd like to eat. But are you on Twitter? Are you LinkedIn? Do you still publish on a blog? Do you get to go to explore? Do they ever send you to kind of local events in your region? What's the story there?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, LinkedIn as well as Twitter at VPhilipose. That's my handle. And then I used to publish the blogs mostly through our official blogs, the blogs.vmware.com. So there had been a gap now. So I will start
we're
doing that as well.
we're getting a lot of that turned back on.
Okay.
We're announcing a new big blog platform next Tuesday. So we're everything should be twice as fast and better for all the authors. And then we're recruiting all the authors, and we're migrating everything to one big VCF blog. So it should be. We should see a lot more blogs, and we've turned back on the RSS streams. So the public RSS streams, so we'll be back on as we now are on a brand new platform that's a SaaS cloud platform. We're excited about that, and so watch for that. We should have more bloggers blogging, and you certainly will be one of them. And how you so you are V Philipose,
Yes.
VPHILIPOSE, VPHILIPOSE. Find him on LinkedIn or Twitter, X, which you want to call it. I will call it Twitter forever. Don't care. Give him a follow and reach out to him and say hello and tell him you heard him on the podcast, because we're all here working on it, right? Bob, any final questions before we move on to the V Barbecue report?
No, I think we covered everything. I was just going to mention that your desire for faster and more interesting CPUs also goes along with a lot of the stuff, like the sustainability metrics is actually something that the hardware collects too now. So, as CPUs and CPU manufacturers and virtualization people and guest operating system vendors talk to each other, this stuff just gets better and better. So, no, thanks for being on the show here. And Eric, what's your question about barbecue?
Well, we always ask our guests, like, do you guys do barbecue in your country? And if so, what do you do? Do you make barbecue, or do you just go get some barbecue? And what kind of barbecue do you eat? And it could be vegetarian, it could be anything. Just get your country and what barbecue do you tend to eat?
So now with the pleasant winter weather in Dubai, everyone is firing up their grills now, right? So you were talking about cold weather there. Here it's 16 degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to 60 degree Fahrenheit. But then that's the best weather we can have here, right? So everybody is into that. So now if you go into the open parks and all, you'll get to see a lot of people doing the barbecue there. For me, I'm not now, because of the diet risk, I'm not a big fan of meat, right? So and then it's basically I like lamb kofta as a barbecue, so that's one of the things which I used to like, but now I don't have that very commonly there.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. I went back and we got to reach out to Tony Foster, because I know he's been quietly there. I've been stuck on this Korean barbecue where you just take the Korean sauce. I took tri-tip on Sunday when we were watching the NFL football games here in the U.S. And we sliced up the barbecue and then put Korean barbecue on it, tri-tip, and then made quesadillas. So we made meat quesadillas with Korean tri-tip barbecue. So that was my gig for the weekend. So we did that. Tony Foster, don't know if you're there, whether you got any kind of barbecue report for the end of the show.
I am. My barbecue has finally got all the snow melted away.
If you start it, it'll do that.
It will do that. We had a major snowstorm here that dumped about 18 inches of snow on us, somewhere in there. And today, yesterday, and Monday, we've been above 50 degrees. So it's finally melted off to the point that I can actually get to the barbecue and use it again.
Nice.
So I'm really jonesing fixing some barbecue, and we'll probably do that Thursday evening or Friday.
I want a cold fusion. I want a cold barbecue report, like ceviche, where you just do it all cold, no heat, right? You actually barbecue with
that's called
no
sushi.
Heat. Yeah, well, no ceviche. You can use acidic chemicals.
Yeah, you cook it in acidic lemon juice and lime juice and that. Yeah, right. My daughter wants to do a batch of cold smoked salmon, and she's not wrong. That's really delicious. And this is the time of year to do it when it's cool outside. Because you don't want to do it in the middle of the summer when,
it's hot. Yeah. Cold smoke.
Yes.
I have been thinking of smoking some salmon because I do have a pellet grill, and I was thinking, but I haven't figured out the magic behind that, because when I smoke things, it tends to get too dry, right? I maybe I over smoke it or smoke it too long or too hot, right? And so then it's amazing when you break the salmon apart and eat it. It's smoky and yummy, but it's kind of dry. I haven't figured it out.
I've had you got to do it hotter out there for that. And I tend to grill salmon instead of put it on the smoker for exactly that reason. It ends up more like jerky than anything. But a cold smoke, you put your pellet grill in a cold smoke mode, and it just makes enough smoke it doesn't actually generate heat. It just makes smoke. You know, and but you got to cure the fish.
It keeps it at like 160, or you do have to burn the pellets to make smoke.
Yeah, but it's not like fully heating the
right.
So.
Yeah,
cool.
Either that or do it when it's -10, like at Tony Foster's, which is so cold that all you get is smoke, and it never really heats up the meat. Right. I think that's what they did up your way, Bob. Is that those smokehouses? I'm not sure they were ever really hot inside, but they just
you have a fire somewhere else. You have a fire offset somewhere, and then you've got a pipe that's like through. So some of the guys I hunt with actually have a pipe through the ground into a smoke building. Yeah, and that's how they do it. So
that's how they
pretty
do
elaborate.
It. That makes sense though, right? A smokehouse that you're never taking the heat off the smoke. You're just redirecting the smoke through enough chillers that it's cold when it gets into the house. That makes sense. All right, Varghese, thanks a lot for being here. As always, we appreciate all the work, and hope you have a rest of your day, whatever time it is there. And thanks for being on the show again. We'll have to get you on more often than once every couple hundred episodes. Right. So,
thank you. My pleasure. Happy to come.
Bob, thanks a lot to everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week. Until then, go get yourself some barbecue and have a great rest of your week.